Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to our daily Teams fundamentals training. We're going to get started at about 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you are here early, thank you very much for being here. Grab yourself a coffee or a drink and get ready to learn about Teams. We'll be with you shortly. All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for coming to our Microsoft Teams daily fundamentals training. My name is Shane, and I work at the Microsoft store in Pentagon City, when we are allowed to leave our houses. But right now, I am working remotely from home, and I am helping everybody learn more about Microsoft Teams and other various Microsoft services and software. I am joined today by my associate Brandon, who also works at the store with me. He will be helping answer questions in the chat. And I also have Timothy with me as well. He is a customer success manager, and he will also be answering questions in the chat. And gentlemen, if you would like to introduce yourselves, go ahead and do so.
Certainly. Thank you, Shane, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session today on Microsoft Teams. Like Shane said, I'm a customer success manager, and my role is helping folks like yourselves who are new to Teams acclimate it to the new application, and thrilled to have you here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandon Boyd. Thank you, Shane, for the introduction. I'm a services advisor at the Pentagon City store for Microsoft, and I'm grateful to be here with you today and excited to answer some of your questions about Teams as we work through.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. So first off, I'm just going to go over a quick introduction about Microsoft Teams and what it is. So you should be able to see my PowerPoint slide right now. If you can't or it's not loading for some reason, I recommend trying to adjust your device settings if you can, or sometimes even just leaving the event and rejoining will help with that as well. So what is Microsoft Teams? As you can see right here, it is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It integrates Office 365 productivity tools into one place and is the next level of communication through chat and calls and collaboration through file sharing, co-authoring, and screen sharing. It is deeply integrated with Office 365, including utilization of one's digital identity within Office 365. Permissions, presence, and more are tied to this identity. Um, as you can see, you can collaborate and communicate seamlessly. It is a single place for your teams to meet around unified objectives with easy access to the applications they use to be productive in their roles. You can even host voice and video meetings to bring the team together in real time. It keeps all the files that matter in one place. It's built on SharePoint, and we'll definitely go a little bit deeper into what that means. And it mitigates common workplace issues like document versioning confusion and permissions issues by housing and sharing your files in the cloud. Plus, it keeps all your tools in one place. It uses both Microsoft-based and third-party solutions alongside each other in a hub that centralizes your workflows and communications. Keep in mind that depending on the tenant you use, which is usually dependent on what agency you are a part of, you may or may not have access to third-party solutions because they will need to be approved first, but most Microsoft first-party solutions will be available to you at the start. Again, we can talk about how Microsoft Teams helps you communicate through chat meetings and calls, collaborate together with integrated Office 365 apps, and customize your workplace and achieve more. You can also make calls in Office 365 and Teams to other Teams users, or if your agency has opted in, you can also make calls to other people's phone lines using Teams as well, but that is an extra service. Lastly, I just want to talk about Teams and its amazing cross-platform experience. You can use the desktop app, which is available for Windows 10 or Macintosh OS. You can use the mobile app, which is available for iOS or Android. And you can even use the web app, which will be the same across all platforms. And that we would prefer you use Google Chrome or the Chromium version of Microsoft Edge. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to hop over to the Teams client, and you will be able to see the next part of my presentation. Here we go. Alrighty, so I am currently using the web app, and the reason I'm using the web app is because I am using my Teams desktop client to present to you right now. So it's a little bit difficult to present to you and use the desktop app to demonstrate at the same time. But the web app and the desktop app are almost exactly the same. There are a few differences here and there, and I'll go over those differences as I get to them. But just know that when you're using the web app, almost everything is going to be identical. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go over the basic user interface that you'll see when you open up Teams. So over here on the left, you are going to have your tab menu, and these are going to be all the different sections within Teams. First one up here is going to be activity, and your activity feed is like your notifications in social media or on your smartphone. It's going to be all of the things that need your attention that are coming in. Chat is going to be very much like text messaging or direct messaging in social media, or if you've used Skype for Business before, chat is going to be very similar to how Skype for Business worked as well. Teams is really the main portion of the application. That is where all of your meeting spaces will live. Project management will usually happen within a team, and major communication about organization-wide things will happen within Teams as well. And I'll get a little bit deeper later on when I actually get to that section about what exactly Teams and channels within Teams are. Then under that, we have your calendar. If you use Outlook at all, you will be very familiar with how the calendar works in Teams. The Teams calendar is basically a simpler version of the Outlook calendar, and we will go over that and what the differences between them are, and even how to create a Teams meeting from within Outlook. Calls is where your call center is. You will keep all of your contacts in there, and you will be able to call other people from within Teams or your work phone line, again, if that has been enabled. And then files is going to be the last major option on here. That is where all of your files that you have access to within Teams will live. And any of the files that you can access, that you have permission to access, will be in there. Underneath that, we have an ellipsis. This is just going to be other apps that you can add to your sidebar. This is going to depend entirely on what apps that you are using, but any apps that you are using a lot, you can go ahead and add them to your sidebar here, and you'll have quick and easy access to them. Underneath that, we have a list of all the apps. Again, that's going to be determined by what your tenant has available to you. So most likely you will only have access to the first-party Microsoft apps and will not have the third-party apps in there. Underneath that is the help button. I'm going to go over the help button and everything that you can access within the help button at the very end of the training, but just know that this is here, and if you ever need help, you can click on that. Up here at the top, you're going to have the new chat button. This is available no matter where you are in Teams, so if you need to start a new chat, or even if you want to just access a chat you already have available to you, you can click that button and type the person's name in there. Next to that, we have the search or command bar. This is a very extensive search bar that you can use to search everything within Teams that you have access to, and we'll go over everything and how that works a little bit later in the training, but just know that it's always going to be at the top of the Teams window right up here in the middle. And then the last part of the user interface that is common across everything in Teams is going to be the digital identity or the Teams settings menu, whatever you want to call it. If you click on that, you're going to have a bunch of different options in here, but just know that this is how you access the Teams settings right here, is by clicking this button and clicking settings here. And again, I will go over everything in this menu in deeper detail a little bit later, because the first thing I want to start with is I want to talk about chat and chatting within Microsoft Teams. Now, chatting within Microsoft Teams is, like I said before, it's very similar to stuff you've used before, whether it's instant messaging, text messaging, direct messaging in social media, or Skype for Business. Chat is going to be very similar to all of that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to open up a chat with my buddy John. And I'm looking over here on the left side, and these are all of my existing chats right here. And I can scroll through them, and I have a whole lot of them, but I don't see a chat with just John. So I'm going to go up to this new chat button, and I'm going to start typing in John's name. There we go. John's going to show up right there, and I'll click on his name. And look at that. We already have a chat history. And that is one of the first things and most important things I do want to mention about chatting in Microsoft Teams is that your chat history is persistent and will always be there. Even if you hide a chat with somebody, anytime that you go and start a chat with them again, that chat will have that same chat history. And you can see I can go up and I can scroll back and I can see all my messages I've had with John throughout all the times that we've been communicating. So I have this chat right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and say hello. And that will send that message. So as you saw down here at the bottom, we do have our message field, and we do have some options that we can use to play around with this message field here. So the first thing underneath is going to be the formatting button. And if I click on that, it's going to pop up the message field into a larger body, and we will be able to play around with some of these formatting options. We've got our standard ones: bold, italics, underline, strike through. We can change the colors and font sizes. We can adjust the paragraph settings, all that fun stuff that you're used to when putting in text into a body. We can even quote and hyperlink over here. And then anytime you see an ellipsis like that, that means you can click on it for more options. We can also put in code, ruler lines, tables, undo, redo, all that fun stuff. But let's say we don't want to look at this big blocky message field anymore. We can hit this right here, and that will bring it right back down to how it was before. Next to the formatting options, we have the importance option. It's this little exclamation part here. Standard messages are the default. Unless you check either of these, it will always be sent as a standard message. An important message will put an exclamation point next to that message, and it will also mark it as important. So I can send this message to John, and I can mark it as important, and you will see a little bubble on the right that says it is important. It's got that exclamation point, and anybody scrolling through their chat or team with important messages, they will always be highlighted in red and have the exclamation point to the next of them, so they know that that is important. And if anybody sends an important message to me, then it will show up as an exclamation point next to the message over here on the preview as well. So I will be able to, at a glance, see that something is important. Underneath that, we have urgent messages. This is not something that you want to take lightly. If you mark a message as urgent, they will be notified by Teams every 2 minutes for 20 minutes, and that's going to be every version of Teams they use. If they use the web app, if they use the desktop app, if they use the mobile app as well, they will get a notification every 2 minutes for 20 minutes, and if they do not respond to the message within those 20 minutes, they will then get an email saying that they missed that message. So that is definitely something that you only want to use in very rare cases, but just know that it is here. Next to the exclamation point, we have the paperclip. Paperclip is going to function just like it does in email. This is how you will attach files or add files to a chat. You can see we have two options right here: OneDrive and upload from my computer. And although this is split into two options, I will tell you that in reality, they're going to be very similar options, because if you are inside a chat, like we are right here, if you choose to upload a file from your computer, it will actually upload that file to your OneDrive and then share a OneDrive link to that file. So if something is already in your OneDrive, you can click on OneDrive right here, and that'll allow you to add a file from your OneDrive to this chat. But if you upload it from your computer, it's still going to upload it to your OneDrive. So either way, the file is going to be in your OneDrive, and everybody who is in this chat will have availability to view and edit that file unless you change the permissions at the file level. The nice thing about that is, instead of emailing a file back and forth and you never really know who has the most recent version or who has all the changes, sharing the file via OneDrive means everybody you have shared it to has access to the source file and can edit the source file at the same time. We call that co-authoring, and I will go over what that looks like in just a moment. And when you co-author with other people, all those changes happen in real time. And if you are the owner of the file, you can actually look at the version history. You can look at who changed what in the file, and you can even revert back to an older version of the file if you don't like the changes that have been made. Next to that paperclip, we have what we call the fun stuff. We've got emojis right here that we can use to send emojis back and forth. I know with a diverse workforce now, we have a lot of people, myself included, who grew up using emojis every time that we said anything. So this is definitely a great way to include them in the conversation. We also have GIFs if you want to put in a GIF that shows exactly what you're feeling about something. And then we also have stickers that you can use to create fun little images and put text in and just spice up your chat a little bit. Next to that, we have the schedule a meeting button. I'm not going to click on this yet because we're going to go much deeper into scheduling meetings later when we get to calendar. But just know that any chat that you have available to you, you can click on this button to schedule a meeting with all of the participants of that chat. Next to that, we have the stream button. Microsoft Stream is the short version of it is it's basically Microsoft's version of YouTube. You can upload videos to Microsoft Stream, and if a video has been uploaded to Stream, you can put that link in here and directly share that video, and it will embed within the chat. And the last option we have in here is praise, and praise is always very helpful to use because it does show your coworkers that you are paying attention to what they're doing and that you appreciate them. So I'm going to say thank you very much to John. And I'll go ahead and preview that. I can see what the message is going to look like. And when you send praise, not only will it tell that person that you appreciate what they're doing, but it will also do something else, which is called a mention. So right here, we can see John Franco, there's his name, but it's highlighted. And when I hover over it, it gives me more information about John. And what that means is that when I sent this praise, it automatically mentioned John, and it sent him a notification saying that he was mentioned. Now, you don't have to send praise to somebody to mention them. I can just go in here, and if I type the @ symbol, Shift-2, it'll give me a list of everybody in the chat. I'll click on John, and here we go. This is another way to manually mention John. So I can send that message, and you can see it has highlighted his name, and I can hover over it to look at more information, such as sending him a chat, sending him an email, viewing his organization, or starting a video or audio call with him. If I scroll up a little bit, you'll see this is what it looks like when John mentioned me. There's my name right there. I can hover over it. It's not going to give me those other options because that's me and I can't chat with myself or call myself. But it will highlight it in orange. The entire message will be highlighted in orange over on the left. And just like the important message, there's a little bubble on the right that shows an @ symbol. And that is showing that I have been mentioned. So being mentioned does show a notification to you specifically for being mentioned over in the activity, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But now, as I'm scrolling up, you can see this message has a heart next to it, and that is because any of these messages, when you hover over it, you can actually react to those messages as well. These are nice if you just want to show how you feel about a specific message, but they can also be helpful if you have a group chat with a lot of people, or maybe you have a team with a lot of people. You can say in an announcement, like this message once you've read it. And if you say that, then everybody who's read the message can like it. You don't have, 30 replies all coming in saying that they've read the message. You just have like reactions, and you can hover over it to see exactly who has reacted to the message. But in addition to having reactions over here, there's also an ellipsis when you hover over, and we have even more things that we can do. So here we have our context menu for messages. We can do a couple different things. We can save the message. If we save the message, it'll be added to our saved messages. We can also edit or delete our messages. You can delete your messages one at a time, but keep in mind that editing or deleting messages is something that is turned on or off by your IT department, your system administrator inside the tenant. So if you do not see edit or delete as options, that is because it has not been enabled for your agency. You can also mark a message as unread if you want to come back to it later, or you can share it to Outlook, which will send you an email with that message, and you can open it in Immersive Reader. But if you saw up here, John mentioned me, but it's only my first name. That is because anytime you mention somebody, and I'll go ahead and I will edit this post. Anytime you mention somebody, it will automatically put in their full name, but all you have to do is hit backspace and it'll get rid of their last name and just show their first name. So that's good if you don't want to clutter up your messages with a whole bunch of first and last names. And now you can see that it says edited right here. That will show to everybody available in the chat that that message has been edited. However, if you do decide to delete a chat message, like so, this message will only show to you. So I am the only one that can see that a message has been deleted. And if I decide I don't want it deleted, I can click undo, and that message is right back again. Now we have a few other things that we have access to when looking at the chat window. We have tabs up here at the top, and then we also have some options over here. First, we have the video call option. This is going to automatically video call everybody who is currently in the chat, whether it's just one person or a group chat. Audio call will do the same thing, but it'll just be audio. It won't ask for video. And keep in mind that that does ring everybody in the chat. So if you press either of those buttons, it is going to actively send a call to everybody who is in that group chat. So just be careful that you're not doing that when everybody's in a meeting. And then right here, you have the members of the chat. So I can click on that, and it will allow me, because the only other person in this chat is John, it will allow me to add another person to the chat. Do we have Christy? We do have Christy. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Christy, and I'm going to add Christy to the chat. And now you can see that that chat history is no longer here, because this is now a group chat with myself, Christy, and John. You can see over here on the left, it has created a new chat. It says draft because we haven't sent anything yet. And my chat with John is still over here underneath. So I can go ahead and say hi, and now it no longer says draft over here, and we now have a message that says, I have added Christy and John to the chat. So this is now a group chat, and both Christy and John are going to be able to read the messages sent in this chat. Now, let's say that we brought in Christy, but we want to bring somebody else in. So we can view and add participants right here. And you can now see we have a list of people in the chat. I can hover over their names, and I can even remove them from the chat if I want to. But let's go ahead and click Add People. Now, because this is a group chat, I have a new option. I can choose not to include any chat history. I can include chat history from the past number of days, and I can specify that here, or I can include all chat history. So I'm going to include all chat history, and I'm going to add Jonathan to the chat. And here you can see there's a message that is sent to everybody saying that I added him to the chat and shared all chat history. So going with the fact that chat history is persistent and transparency, every time you add somebody new to a chat, it will tell everybody in the chat that you have added them, and it will tell you whether or not that you have shared that chat history. But you know what? Let's say I decided it was a mistake to add Jonathan to this group chat. I'm going to go up here to the people. Here's Jonathan right here. I'm going to click on that X to remove him, and it is going to give me a warning saying that Jonathan will still have access to the chat history. So that means even if I remove him from the group, he is not going to get new messages from that group chat, but he is going to have access to all of the chat history that he previously had access to. So just a warning to let you know that that will be the case. And there you can see that I have removed Jonathan from the chat. Now, you can see over here on the left that because I've created this new chat and I have that chat with John and I have all these other things too, my chats are starting to get pretty extensive. I've got a lot of chats over here. So one of the cool things that you can do is, again, anytime you see this ellipsis right here, that means you have more options. If you hover over a chat over here on the left side and you click on more options, you have some new things you can do. I can mark as unread, which we went over a little bit earlier, but you can also pin. So I'm going to click on pin. And what that does is it'll put that chat up at the top of the list of chats I have, and it will always stay at the top no matter what messages are sent in the other chats. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this one as well. And then let's pin this group chat as well. And now you can see these three chats are always going to be at the top. And you know what? I can even click on where it says recent and collapse all those and only view my pinned chats. So pinning chats is a great way to keep up with chats that are the most important to you. You can do them with individual chats, you can do it with group chats, and it will make sure that the chats that matter to you the most are always going to be on the top. You can click on pinned there to collapse that as well. Now, the opposite of pinning is going to be hiding. Let's say that, you know, John and I have been working together a while, but maybe he left the company and I don't need this chat to be here anymore. So I can click on more options and I can click on hide. And now that chat with John is no longer there. I can scroll all the way to the bottom, no chat with John. But you know what? That was a mistake. So just like I did earlier, I can go up, I can find his chat, and there we go. Now we have that chat with John is back, and it's going to be over here on the left. And I can go ahead and repin that chat. Another option that we have is being able to mute a chat. So let's say that you are in a group chat, and you know, I'm sure we've all been in that situation where you have a group text message and somebody adds you to that group text message, and then two other people start talking about their cats, and you're just getting text message after text message after text message, and your phone won't stop vibrating. Well, the mute option is for you. If you go ahead and click on the more options again, you can mute a chat, and now you'll see this little mute icon shows up right here. And what that means is you will no longer get notifications from this chat. You won't get a new pop-up or notification every time somebody sends a new message. You will only see in this menu right here that you are getting new messages. So you'll be able to go and check that chat anytime you want, but you won't get new notifications from that chat. All right, let me go ahead and unpin all of these. And the last thing I'm going to go over in chats is I want to go over these tabs up here at the top, because these are going to be very similar to the tabs you have when we go over Teams and channels within Teams. The first tab is going to be Files. And the reason I want to go over this is because this is where all of your files that have been shared within a chat will live. So these are the files that John has shared with me, and you can see they're listed right here. And if I go over and I click more options, that will give me the ability to edit the file directly within Teams. I can open it in the PowerPoint web app by clicking open in browser, or I can even open in the desktop app. And if I click open in the desktop app, it's not going to download the file. It is going to open a streamed version of that file to your desktop app. So even if I click open in desktop app, any changes I make will still reflect on the source file. Now, the alternative to that is download. And I only recommend using download if you're going to need to work on the file offline. Because if you download, that is going to create a copy of the file. And once you create a copy of the file, that is what can lead to versioning confusion. You can also get a link to the file if you want to share with somebody else. I'm going to go ahead and edit it in Teams. and just show you really quick what it's like when you edit a file within Microsoft Teams. So here we have the slideshow that you saw a little bit earlier, and now we have a version of PowerPoint that is running within Microsoft Teams. So this way I don't have to keep going back and forth between different windows. I'm just able to see it right here. I'm going to go ahead and click edit anyway because I do want to be able to edit, and I can make any editing changes that I want to. Now, up to 99 people can co-author a document together at the same time. However, we do recommend that you keep it to around 10 people, because more than that, you're going to start stressing out the servers and you may go down in efficiency. As you can see, we have most of the same options we do up here. There are a few differences between the web app versions of Office and the desktop app versions of Office. I don't know exactly what they are off the top of my head, but if you search for that online, Microsoft has pages which will tell you exactly what the differences are. You will, however, always have this button that says Open in Desktop App. So if you are looking for a feature and you can't find it, click on Open in Desktop App, and that will take you to the desktop app with this file. Then you can also click here to place comments. You can click here to present. And you know what? If I want to keep talking to John about this file, I can click on Conversation right here, and it's going to bring up my chat with John. And so now we can have everything open in the same window, and I can continue that conversation while editing this file. Keep in mind that there are a few limitations when it comes to co-authoring a document. If you're working on a PowerPoint slide like this one, everybody who is co-authoring needs to be working on separate slides at the same time. If you're co-authoring a Word document, everybody needs to be working on separate paragraphs. And if you are co-authoring an Excel spreadsheet, everybody needs to be working on different cells at the same time. Alrighty, and then we have a couple more tabs, but those are pretty quick because this is a one-on-one chat with John. I can view his organization. We don't have organization set up for this demo tenant, but just keep in mind there would be an organization tree here. I can also view John's activity, which is I can go look at all of the posts and chats that he has sent that I have access to view. And then we can also look at the other tabs that have been posted up here. I'm going to save that for now because I'm going to go over that more when we get to Teams. And I'm just going to take this moment before we go on to Teams to ask if we have any questions that need to be addressed about chat.
Yeah, Shane, we have a couple of questions on file sharing within a chat. And I know we have not gotten to Teams and channels just yet, but we've had a couple questions on whether it's possible if I have a file in a Teams channel, is it possible to take that same file and send it or share it rather in a chat?
So it is, you would have to essentially link to that file. And keep in mind that when a file is uploaded to a team, I'll get to this a little bit more in a moment, but when a file is uploaded to a team in a specific channel, it is actually saved in the SharePoint of that channel. Each channel will have its own SharePoint folder, and that is where the file is going to be uploaded, is to that SharePoint. And only the people who are a part of that team will be able to access the files in that SharePoint. So if you try to share a file with somebody who is not in a team that file has been uploaded to, they will not have permissions to view and access that file. You will need to get the source file from the person who uploaded it first.
Okay, so I think just to reiterate, it is possible to share a file that is in a Teams channel to someone in a chat, but that individual must be part of that team in order to access the source file. I can't just share it with somebody who is not part of that team. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we'll see if we can highlight that when we go into channels. The other question I had was if we choose not to use, say, a file in OneDrive, which I wouldn't recommend because it's backed up by the cloud, but if I choose to share, say, something from my desktop or in a local file to a chat, does that person still get the same permissions to edit, and does that file update?
So yes, the short answer is yes, because if I go down here and I click attach and I click upload from my computer, that file is still going to be uploaded to OneDrive because everything in Teams is saved to the cloud, whether it's OneDrive or SharePoint. So if I upload a file to a chat, it is going to be saved in my OneDrive. It is going to be uploaded to my OneDrive if it's not already there, and then it is going to be shared that way. If you want to adjust permissions of a file, whether or not somebody can edit the file or not, you will need to adjust the permissions on the file level. So that is something that you would do within the program that you use to create that file. So Word, PowerPoint, or Excel, you can go into the privacy options and you can adjust the permissions of that file. So if you only want it to be read only, you only want people to view it, do that on the file level before you upload it, and then once you upload it, everybody who has access to it from within the chat will only be able to view that file.
Excellent, thank you. We have no other questions at this time.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Teams section of Microsoft Teams. And since it is the namesake, you can imagine that it is the beefiest part of the program and is where most of the interaction will occur. However, that is all dependent on how your organization uses the program. But I can tell you that I use the Teams section a lot. So what is a team itself? A team is a workspace that you're either an owner or a member of. When you first open up Microsoft Teams, you may see some teams over here on the side. You may not. And if you don't, that's okay, because you can go down here and you can click on join or create a team. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that real quick just so you can see what it looks like. Again, depending on your tenant, you may or may not have permission to create your own team. If you do not have permission to create your own team, you can check with your IT department or your system administrator to get special permission to create a team. If you have a team join code, you can also enter that right here, and that will allow you to join a team with a code. And also, I'm going to go ahead and just leave that team real quick. Yep. And we'll go over to public teams in just a moment. Because first I just want to go over what these channels are within Teams. So like I said, a team is a workspace that you're either an owner or a member of. If you are an owner of a team, that usually means that you can go to the settings and control various options of the team. If you are a member, then the owners of the team will decide whether or not you are allowed to change some options. And more often than not, like I said, an owner will have to request creation of a team. Every team is made up of channels, which are going to be these little selections underneath each team. And then every channel has tabs, just like we saw in chat. And we'll go over tabs more in depth in a few moments. But a channel is dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. And conversations around that topic, department, and project are held in that channel, and it can be customized with its own tabs to bring resources into one place. A channel also creates a folder for that channel's shared files, and that folder is a SharePoint folder. Tabs, like we see up here at the top, are a way to give team members quick access to resources. A tab can link to Office 365 tools and more. Let me go back down here to join or create a team. Yes. So here we go. That team I left was a public team. And there are 3 different types of teams, and I'll show you what those are in a moment. I'll go through what it's like to create a team. But a public team will show up right here. If there are multiple public teams, they'll keep continuing down the list. And more often than not, when you first boot up Microsoft Teams for the first time, if you are not already a part of a team, you'll be able to go down here to join or create a team, and there will be some public teams that you can join. So I'm going to go ahead and join that team. And excellent, it says I've joined it. And now I'm going to click on create a team and just go over a few other things real quick. So I can build a team from scratch, or I can create from an existing Office 365 group or team. I'm going to go ahead and build a team from scratch. And now you can see the 3 different versions of teams that we can make. A private team means people need permission to join that team. If you create a private team, you will be the only owner of that team, and you will need to invite other people to that team manually, whether that's by sharing out a team code or sending them individual invites. A public team means anybody in your organization can join. So this East Coast team over here is a public team, and that is why I was able to see it in that list. So keep in mind, if a team is public, everybody in your organization will be able to join that team if they wish. And then an org-wide team automatically adds everybody in your organization to that team, and everybody will be a part of that team. So just be careful if you have the ability to make an organization-wide team. With a public team, keep in mind, just like a private team, you can also manually invite people to a public team as well. Alrighty. So here you can see within a channel, it is going to be pretty similar to, I think this is the one I like, yeah. It's going to be pretty similar to a chat with a few differences. So now, instead of just chat messages going one by one, we now have what we call conversations. So each of these right here is a conversation, and you can see underneath each one, we actually have a reply button. So we have all these same options right down here to start a new conversation, but we can also click on this reply button. And if we click on that, we're going to get those same options here as well. So we can change our formatting, we can attach files, we can add emojis, and so on and so forth. But if I reply to a message, we'll see right here, this meeting has 2 replies from myself and John. I can click on that right there, and it is going to show the replies that have been made. So it's going to consolidate all of the conversations to their own little posts right here, just like on social media, if you've ever used that. And so you can see all of these different conversations have replies. And you can see those replies. I can send them up like that, and so on and so forth. Here we've got some replies from Megan. However, we do have a few extra options in a channel as opposed to a chat. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this formatting button again. So now we have some new fields that we can see. First, we have a subject field. We can add a subject to a post to make it a little bit more visible. Being very creative right now. You'll notice that down here we no longer have the exclamation point. That is because it is in the formatting options, and you can only mark a Teams post as important. You cannot make a Teams post urgent, because that would spam a lot of people if you did that. And so let's go ahead and post this so you can see what the subject looks like. There we go. My post now has a subject and a body. But you know what? I'm going to go back and edit it, because there are a few more things that I can do to make this a little bit more attention grabbing. So right here it says new conversation. I can click on that, and I can change it to an announcement. And now we've got this nice big colorful banner that shows up right here. And I can go ahead and call that headline. Right over here, I can click on this, and it will allow me to change the color. I'm going with forest green because that's how I'm feeling today. You can also click on this button right here, and it'll allow you to upload a picture as a background. But there we go. I'll click on this checkbox to save, and now we have an announcement. Just like when we saw the important message, there's also a little bubble over here on the right that shows that it is an announcement, and we've got this big eye-catching headline. I'll scroll up a little bit. Here's another announcement right here. And then we can also see, I believe we have an announcement that already has a picture uploaded as the background. And yep, here we go. This is an announcement where our system administrator has uploaded a picture that says payroll. And you can see we've got reactions here, we've got reactions here. Just like in a chat, you can react to posts within a channel. One other thing that we do have the availability to do, I'm going to edit this message one more time. You can change who can reply. So I can say everyone can reply to this message, or only myself and moderators can reply to this message. It's a good way to keep traffic down if you are just putting something out there for information. You can also post this in multiple channels. So right now I'm posting it in Northern Earthquake Exercise, but let's say I also want to post it in Hazmat and Environmental Program. So I can do that. I can click on that channel, hit update. Now it'll show both those channels right there. I'll go ahead and post that. And now we've got an icon right here that shows me that it has been posted in multiple channels. Now, one thing that you should know if you are posting a message in multiple channels is that the replies are going to be unique to the channel in which those replies are made. So I'm just going to put in a reply here. You can see there's my reply. I'm going to go over here. And now we have this same post, but there is no reply to that post. So just keep in mind that the replies are going to be unique to the channel that they are posted in, and that is because not everybody has access to all of the channels and teams that you do. So you do not want to cause any confusion by having replies show up in different channels. So now you can see we have all these different channels. Whenever a team is created, it will start with a general channel, and then other channels can be added later. And you'll see we have a whole bunch of channels here, but now we have this channel, and it's got this little lock icon next to it. That means that this is a private channel, and just like a private team, a private channel must have people manually added to it. So that means that when that channel was created, the owner of the team who was creating the channel designated it as private and individually added people to the channel. And so not everybody who is a part of this team will be able to see that channel. When channels are created, they are automatically hidden. So it is similar to hidden chats, but instead of disappearing entirely, they're going to go to this hidden channels group right here. If I click on that, it will allow me to look at the other channels that are available, and they will it will show all of the other channels that are available. These are the ones that are hidden, and you can go ahead and click on those. You will still be able to access those channels. They are just hidden. You can see that this is italicized right here. If I click off of that, it will go back to the hidden channels. If I want that channel to be visible all the time, I can click on show right there, and now that channel is always going to be visible. Now if I decide I don't want that channel again, like before, I can click on that ellipsis and hide that channel, and now it is back in hidden channels. Just like we could with chats, we can also pin specific channels. You can see some channels I already have pinned up here. I can click on that, and it's going to take me to the specific channel within that team that I have pinned up at the top. I can also click on the ellipsis again and hit unpin. Down here at the bottom, we also have a Manage Teams menu. What that does is it gives you a list of all the teams you are a part of and whether or not you can manage them. So you can see right here, for each team, it tells me whether I am an owner or a member of that team. You can see all that right there, as well as how many people is in each team and whether or not that team is public, which is this globe, or private, which is the log. And then I can click on that and whether or not that team is hidden or not. Because again, just like chats, teams can be hidden. We can also hide them by clicking over there and clicking hide. I'm not going to hide that one right now because I already have a chat hidden. It'll show up down here at the bottom. Again, unlike chats, they will not completely remove themselves. They will just be down here at the bottom. And you can decide whether or not you want to expand them or not by hitting that button right there. So if you have a team that you don't necessarily want to leave, that you want to always have access to, you can hide it and it will show up down here under hidden teams, and you will not get notifications from that team unless you are tagged in that team. Alrighty, so the next thing I'm going to go over is I want to go over tabs within channels themselves. But before I do that, do we have any questions about teams or channels themselves?
Not at this time.
Alrighty. So just like we saw in chats earlier, we have tabs up at the top of channels. First tab is going to be the same as we saw before, and that's going to be files. Every channel and every chat is going to have a files tab, and that is going to be a list of all of the files that have been uploaded to this team. Now, you can organize this like You can organize this like your file explorer. You will have folders, you will have files within those folders, and you can access this just like your file explorer. Go in, make new folders, organize your files, so on and so forth. You have some other options up here as well. You can create a new file, and you can choose what kind of file you want to make. You can choose to upload files or folders directly from your computer. This one's pretty cool right here. If you click sync, it will sync this SharePoint folder to your computer, which means you will have access to it through your file explorer. And any changes that are made in Teams or on SharePoint will reflect on your computer, and any changes you make on your computer will reflect in SharePoint and Teams. So that's pretty cool and allows you to access that folder even faster. You can copy a link. This is how you would share a file or a folder from a team to a chat. You would copy the link. You can highlight something specifically and copy the link that way. Or you can copy a link to this entire folder. But again, if the person you're chatting with does not have access to this team or this channel, they will not be able to see that file. You can also download. If you click download right here, it'll download everything as a zip file. You can highlight individual things and download them as well. Again, you really only want to download stuff if you need to be working offline. You can click right here to add cloud storage. And that will allow you to add other cloud storages. However, if they are third-party cloud storage, you may not be able to add them based on your tenant. And then if you click right here, you can open in SharePoint, and that will open this folder within SharePoint itself and allow you to do a few more things like view version history. In addition to those tabs, though, you can also add other things as tabs. So you can see we have a lot of tabs up here. And if I click on this one right here, I believe this is a PDF. Yep. Somebody has added this PDF as a tab. And that means that instead of going into files and finding that PDF, anybody who has access to this channel can just click on outlined activities up here at the top, and that will allow you to view this PDF at a moment's notice. Over here, we have, I believe this is a website. Because our tenant is set up a certain way, we can't actually view website tabs. However, if I click on this little globe right here, that'll take me directly to the website there. And here's the website that we have linked. So in your tenant, you should be able to add websites as a tab, and it should work just fine. And here we have a Word document that has been added as a tab. If I click on Word right there, it will take me to this document. And you can see we have the document available, and we were able to just jump in and start editing just by clicking that right there at the top. If you have more tabs, there will be a drop-down library or a drop-down menu right there. And then this plus button right here will allow us to add anything that we want as a tab. And you can see here are all the first-party options that we can use. Under that are the third-party options, and you may not be able to use those, but the first-party options are plentiful. You can link to another SharePoint document library. You can add Excel. You can put in a form. You can add a OneNote notebook, add a PDF like we saw. You can add Planner to a channel. You can even link to Power BI if you want to look at data analysis. PowerPoint, you can link to a SharePoint page or site. You can link to a stream video. You can have Visio, and you can add a website, a wiki, or a Word document. A website is going to need to be a secured website, so it must start with HTTPS instead of just HTTP. And a wiki, let me see if I have a channel around here that already has a wiki, just so you can see what it looks like. A wiki is going to be like a OneNote notebook, but a little bit simpler and a little bit faster to access. And anybody who has access to this channel can add articles to this wiki. And a wiki is going to be used for pretty much whatever you want to use it for. You will be able to, you can add how-tos, you can add policies, anything like that you can put into a wiki and have it available for immediate access by clicking on this button here. Alrighty, and now I'm going to show you what it's like to edit a team. So, like I said, if you are an owner,
Shane.
Yeah.
Hey, can I pause you for a couple of decent questions?
Yep.
We have one question, which is, what is the difference between a folder and a channel? And I wanted you to be able to go over that before you moved forward.
Absolutely. So, a folder is essentially like you may have seen when using File Explorer on your own computer. A folder is a collection of files. A channel is going to be a place where conversations occur, but every channel has its own folder assigned to it within SharePoint. So right now we have these 6 folders right here, right? These are folders in this channel where files are uploaded. But if I click on Open in SharePoint right here, we're going to see the same 6 folders within SharePoint. Here we go. There are the folders right here. But this is actually our general channel of the Northern Earthquake Exercise Group. So if I click on Documents right here, we are going to see here are all the channels within the Northern Earthquake Exercise, and here is the general channel right here. So the general channel does have a folder, but a channel itself is a place where conversations can be grouped together. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Not for that, Shane, but I actually had one that I thought could be beneficial for everybody, and that were some examples of when you might want to create a publicly available, organizational-wide available team, and what examples you might be able to give. And Shane, Brandon, please jump in here. But one of the things that I have seen across the fellow agencies that I support are we've seen COVID-19 teams being created just to have a central repository for information in regards to the impact to the organizations, to when they potentially might be expected to open offices back up, and what the best practices would be once they do. We even had a client deploy teams yesterday, and they actually created a publicly available team that was on Teams, best practices, questions, tips and tricks, how to go to create a meeting, and all those other good stuff. But Shane, Brandon, if you've got other examples on publicly available teams, that I think would be great.
I mean, there are lots of different things you could do. You could create an HR team where anybody who needs to get in contact with HR can go in and post in that team. You could create even like a recreational team, like if you guys have a football team or a softball team or something like that, you could make a team for that to share out meetings and schedules and invites and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's you really hit the nail on the head with yours. I think those were some really good examples. Do we have any other questions that you would like me to go over?
Got one here. Can a channel folder be linked to an existing SharePoint site, or does the channel folder create a new SharePoint site?
When you create a team, every channel in that team does create its own SharePoint folder. However, you can link to other SharePoint folders by adding them as a tab. So you can see right here, I click add a tab, and then I can add a SharePoint document library right here if you want to link to another SharePoint. If you want to have a SharePoint, have a channel folder built off an already existing SharePoint folder, I'm not sure if there's a way to import that and combine them, but I know you would be able to move files from one SharePoint folder to another. Timothy, do you know, is there any way to link them together so that they're the same folder? I'm not aware of a way to do that.
I am not, I'm afraid.
So yeah, I think right now your best bet is to, if you need the files that are already in another SharePoint folder, is to move the files over. If you just need access to those files, you can add them as a tab within that channel. Any other questions?
Not at this time.
All right, excellent. So the next thing I want to talk about is what it is like to manage a team. So if you click on the ellipsis next to a team right here, we're going to have a lot of different options. We can add a channel, we can add a member, we can leave the team, edit the team, so on and so forth. But if we click on Manage Team, that is going to give us all of those options in the same menu. So the first option, or the first tab you're going to have, is Members. This is where you can look at all of the owners as well as the members and guests of your team. And you can see right here, it shows over on the right, owner or member. And if you are an owner, you can go over and you can click to choose which one you want them to be. Keep in mind, like here's me, keep in mind that you can actually set yourself to a member, and you want to be careful because if you do that by accident, you're going to need to get another owner to make you an owner again. You can also add members manually this way. If I click on add member right here, it'll allow me to type somebody's name and I can send them an invite to this team. If somebody is a member, you can also click on this X to remove them from the team as well. Over under pending requests, if you are a member of a team, you are still able to suggest people to be added to that team. If you send an invite to somebody, their name will show up under pending requests, and the owners of that team will have to approve that person to join that team. This is if it's a private team. Now, the way to avoid doing that is if you generate a team code. I'll go over that momentarily because that's under the settings tab right here. First, I just want to show channels. So here we can create and edit new channels and existing channels. We have the option of whether we want them to show. Show means that they will show here, and if they are not shown, they will show up under hidden channels. So we can have channels automatically show for people who are a part of that team. And then we can click on the ellipses over here to adjust some channel options just like we could before. We can also click here to add a channel. And keep in mind that when creating a channel, whether you decide to make it public or private is determined upon channel creation, and that cannot be changed later. So just know that if you want a channel to be private, you'll have to make it as private and you'll never be able to make it public, and vice versa. Under settings here, we have a few different things we can do. We have the team picture, which is this right up here. You can change that. Member permissions. You can determine whether you want your members to be able to do things like create and update channels, upload custom apps, create, update, and remove tabs, so on and so forth. You can also decide whether you want guests to be able to create and update channels or delete channels. You can choose who you want to be able to mention the entire team or the entire channel. Here is where you can generate a team code. So if I click generate right here, this will generate a team code that anybody can use to join my team. And this will bypass the pending requests. So if I give this code to somebody and they join that team using the join code in joiner created team, they will automatically join the team and will not be able to, and I will not have a pending request. They will just join. If that team code has gotten out and people are joining your team left and right that you don't want, you can click remove right here, and that will remove that team code and it will no longer be valid. And you will have to generate another one. Under here, you can decide whether people are allowed to use the fun stuff in your teams. So GIFs, stickers, and memes. And then down at the bottom, you can choose who is able to add tags to the team. Lastly, you also have team analytics. These are fun for nerds like me who are really into statistics, and you'll be able to see who has been using the team, who's been active, how many meetings you've had, and what your engagement has looked like. And then lastly, you can choose what apps are and are not allowed in your team. So that is everything regarding teams and channels. The next thing I'm going to move over is calendar and meeting. Do we have any other questions you need me to address before I do that?
There is one that I would bring up, and that is, can you show how to have collective template files, then share with your manager to sign and save in a confidential folder with only one employee, their case files not public? And if you could address that, that would be helpful.
I might need to go read that question.
Would you like me to reread it?
I might have to defer to Timothy on that one. Tim, do you know how to, would you know how to answer that question? Because I'm not sure I would know that one.
I do not know the answer to that one either. I'm going to have to table that one.
Okay. So we're going to do some research into that one and we will get back to you. Tim, if you don't mind trying to see if you can get their information to follow up. But that is definitely something that I am not familiar with. I'm going to move on so we're not just all bumbling on that question, but that is a really good question. Interesting. Do we have anything else before I get into calendars and meetings?
Not at this time.
All right, awesome. So this is the Teams calendar. So as you can see, it is going to be similar to the Outlook calendar if you've used that before. We have our meetings, we have our days. Right now it is in the work week view. You can also change it to the day view or the week view. Right now there is not a month view for Teams. but that is something that may be coming in the future. And here you can select which week you want to be looking at. There's also a today button, and you can scrub through the weeks by clicking these arrows. Any of these meetings you can go ahead and click on to view more information. Because I've created these meetings, if I click on it, it will allow me to edit that meeting. I'll show you what that looks like momentarily, but first I want to tell you about these buttons right here. Meet Now will create a new meeting. It won't schedule it, it'll just start a new meeting and you'll be able to manually add people through there. This will schedule a new meeting and will allow you to invite people that way. If you click on this arrow right here, you can also schedule a live event. We have specific trainings on live events and the creation and running of live events. Just know that right now what you're in is a live event, and that is an event with can have up to 10,000 people, and it has a presenter or several presenters and then attendees. Scheduling a meeting can have up to 250 people, and those are all going to be active participants. So we're going to go ahead and schedule a meeting right now so you can see what that looks like. So when we're scheduling a meeting, we have the ability to add a title of the meeting right here, and we can add required attendees. Let me just go ahead and start typing in some names. And you will be able to see, let's go ahead and change this to 4 o'clock. And now you can see that John and Marvin's names have turned red once I've changed the time to 4 o'clock, but Christie's has not. That is because Teams will automatically look at the calendars of the people you have invited to the meeting and tell you whether or not they are busy. So if I go over here to Scheduling Assistant up at the top, you can see that John and Marvin are both scheduled to be in a meeting from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And because of that, they are not going to be able to attend a meeting that I make for 4 o'clock. Up here at the top, you can see this is the all attendees bar. So Marvin, in addition to having a 10 to 11 meeting, also has an 11 to 11:30 meeting. And this all attendees bar is going to extend on his meetings because this is the availability of everybody who I have invited. Christy does not share her schedule, so her schedule is unknown. So we'll just have to work with what we can for that. I'll go back to details. So here you can see the suggested times. It's going to suggest 5 o'clock because that is when Marvin and John's meeting ends, or 2:30 because that is before it begins. So we'll click on 2:30 so everybody's able to make it. Here we can adjust the repeating settings of the meeting. We can repeat every weekday, we can repeat every day, every week, every month, every year. We can even hit custom, and we can do every other day, every other week, so on and so forth until a certain date. We can also add a channel to a meeting. What that will do is it will display the meeting within that channel, and anybody who has access to that channel will be able to join that meeting at any time. And then we can add a location. This could be a specific room in your building or a specific building on your campus, or maybe even the Starbucks down the street. You can put that in as a location so people know where the meeting is. And then you can type up the details for that meeting. I'm going to go ahead and close this because I'm not going to make a new meeting. I will tell you, though, that any of these meetings that you see here, anybody can join those meetings at any time. So if I click on that meeting, now I have the option up here at the top to join. So if I go ahead and click that button right there, yes, you can use my mic and my camera. It's going to set them up. There we go. This is called the lobby or the powder room. I've heard it called both. This is before you get to the meeting. You are able to adjust your camera settings, adjust your mic settings, and you will be able to see a camera preview here. You can also click on this to change your device settings, make sure everything is working properly. You can join with audio off if other people in the same room are already in the meeting, and that will prevent echo. You can join with phone audio and use your computer screen to see the presentation if that works better for you, or you don't have a microphone or a speaker on your computer. Or you can even hook into a conference room's already existing sound and video system. I'm going to go ahead and join now, and that will put me in the meeting. And now you can see here I am. I don't have anybody else in the meeting with me, but here is a counter going that shows how long the meeting's been. I can turn on my camera if I want. I can unmute myself. I can also share my screen. This is going to be one of the few differences between the web app and the desktop app. I'm not actually able to share my screen itself. I can only share PowerPoint files that have already been uploaded to Teams. If you were on the Teams desktop app, it would show all of the programs you have open and you'd be able to share your entire desktop. Here we have the raise your hand button. That will allow you to let the person speaking know that you have something you want to say, or that can be used to take a vote. You can say, everybody raise your hand if you want to do this. Right here, we can show the conversation. And this is going to be the meeting chat for this meeting. And if it is a recurring meeting, this is a persistent chat that will go through all of the meetings that you have in that repeating meeting cycle. So you can see these are messages that John and I have sent previously, and those messages are going to stay there in that chat. It is also a group chat that you will be able to find up here in the chat section. Next to that, we also can show the participants of the meeting. I am the organizer of the meeting, but these are the other people invited. If they are not in the meeting yet, I can go click on their names and I can ask them to join, and that will call them. And when they pick up that call, they will be in the meeting. I can also manage the permissions of the meeting. Yeah, that'll take me to another site that I can use to manage the permissions of the meeting. That's going to be stuff like being able to bypass the lobby. Yeah, who can bypass the lobby? Anybody in the organization, everybody, or so on. And then you can also have it announce when people join or leave and who can present. Next to that, we can also download the attendance report. And what that does is it shows everybody who joined the meeting, when they joined, when they left, and whether or not they participated. And that is good if you are conducting a class or you need to track attendance. If you click on this ellipsis right here, you're going to have some more options. We can get to those device settings again. We can show meeting notes if anybody is taking meeting notes. We can show the meeting details. This is nice because you will be able to see the dial-in number. This is something you can access from the meeting invitation as well, but if you're not able to make the meeting from Teams, you can dial in manually using this phone number, or you can put in this conference ID. You can also enter your phone number here and have the meeting call you to your phone, and you can copy the join info to send to somebody else if you need to. You can also enter full screen. You can bring up a keypad in case you're calling somebody into the meeting and they have an extension. You can record a meeting. If you record a meeting, it will upload the meeting recording to Microsoft Stream, and the person who pressed start recording will be the owner of that recording. If you are the organizer, you can also end the meeting. That will automatically end the meeting for everybody in the meeting and will disconnect everybody. You can also turn off incoming video. This is good if your internet isn't that great. Maybe you're on your phone out in the wilderness, or too many people are using the Wi-Fi. You can turn off incoming video if you don't need to see people, if you only need to hear them, and that will be less of a strain on your bandwidth. And then this red button right here is the hang up button. You will leave the meeting, but the meeting will continue going on for everybody else inside that meeting. Do we have any questions about meetings or calendar?
Not on those, but I had one that I thought was kind of fun. Is changing the icon of your team. If you wanted to maybe make it a different picture, like your company seal or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is done within your team settings. You go to your team section right here. You can click on this ellipsis right here and manage team. And we'll go over to settings right here. And team picture is going to be the first one. And you can go in and you can upload a picture, or you can delete the existing picture. So you can do that to change the picture, and it'll show up next to the team over here. It'll also show up at the top here. All right, any other questions you need me to address?
It's asking, let's see if I have this correctly. Can you reiterate what you said about web app versus desktop client for screen sharing?
Sure. So if you are inside a meeting, I'll go back to that meeting I was in before. If you are using the web app and you click on share, it won't allow you to screen share your entire desktop. It'll only allow you to share PowerPoints that you have uploaded to Teams or in chats. You can also screen share a whiteboard if that is something that is available to you in your tenant. That is just a limitation of the web app right now. It is something they are working on, but right now that is all that's available. If you are using the Teams desktop client, you are able to screen share your entire desktop, or if you have multiple programs open, you can choose which program specifically you want to share. Right now, I am currently sharing only this Microsoft Edge window, which has Teams inside of it. If I bring my mouse down here, I have a whole taskbar full of programs and stuff, but you can't see it because I am only sharing this specific window. In fact, I can even click over to other programs. I'm looking at my email right now, for example, and you guys can still only see the Teams window that I currently have open.
And another question, in terms of creating the meeting, could you quickly show what that looks like if you were to create it in Outlook as opposed to Teams?
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me 1 second. I do have to switch that over real quick. So this is my Outlook window. This is the Outlook that I use for Microsoft, and all of these meetings are actually Teams meetings. None of these are meetings that were created in Outlook. But if you wanted to create a Teams meeting from within Outlook, you should have this button right up here at the top that says New Teams Meeting. And if I click on that, I think it brings up another window that you guys won't be able to see. So I have to switch over to that real quick. There we go. So this is what it looks like to create a Teams meeting in Outlook. And we get this question a lot because if you want to invite somebody to a Teams meeting who is outside your organization and you aren't able to communicate with people outside your organization in Teams because that is dependent on your tenant, you would want to create the meeting from within Outlook, and you can put their email address in this to line right here, and you'll be able to invite people to the Teams meeting from outside your organization. Everything else is going to be the same. You've got your meeting title or subject. You've got your location, start time, end time. You can change your recurrence options right here. You can use Room Finder. You can use Scheduling Assistant. And you've got all of your join options underneath here.
And I know some people had asked this question earlier. Having the dial-in number there does not prevent you from hosting a Teams meeting, either using audio or video. But if you have a phone number there, what it means is that somebody can dial in and just click on the audio if they choose, but it is certainly not a deal breaker to attend that meeting. It also is dependent on the licensing agreement that your organization has with Microsoft.
Awesome. Alrighty, so I have just a couple more things to go over, and they're all going to be really quick. This calls menu right here, like I said, this is just a way to call people. You can see your call history. You can view your contacts here. And if you have your voicemail set up through Teams, you can access your voicemail that way. And then this files menu right here is going to be where all of your files live that you have access to in Teams. However, this is a list of everything together. It's not organized by team or folder or anything like that. If you're looking for a specific file, it's usually going to be easier to search for it. So if I go up to the search bar right here, and I know there's a file called please check this, I can search for it from that search bar up there. And now here are all the messages with the words please check this. And if I click on this tab right here for files, now here is that file that I am looking for. So I can click on that file and it'll open it over here to the right, and it'll open my chat with John Franco over here. And so you can see that is how I search for that. I can go back to messages. I can exit out of here. And yep, there's some nice pictures of John's dog that he uploaded to that file. And if there was somebody named please check this, it would show here under people. I can go ahead and let's say I can just search for John, click on people, and now we see everybody with John in their name, or even Jonathan thinking maybe I spelled it wrong. So the search within Teams is very comprehensive, and I highly recommend if you are looking for something, you use this search because it can search for messages, it can search for people, and it can search for files. Over here in the upper right, we do have the Teams settings menu. From within here, you can change your availability. You can do that manually by changing yourself to busy, do not disturb, or away. If you are busy, you can still receive messages. However, other people will see that you are busy. If you change to do not disturb, however, you will not receive message notifications unless they are urgent. So be careful when you manually change to do not disturb, because you will have to manually change back to be able to get those notifications. If you are in a meeting, you will be set to busy automatically. If you are presenting, you will be set to do not disturb automatically. You can also set your status message or view your saved messages right here. And then if you click on settings right here, oops, you can see the settings for Microsoft Teams. You can change your theme to dark or high contrast, change your language, add some privacy settings. If you add somebody to your priority access, they will be able to message you even through do not disturb. So if somebody is very important, you can add them to your priority access. You can also block contacts or decide whether or not you want read receipts to be on. Keep in mind, some organizations will keep these on or off by default. You may not be able to change it. And then here you can change your notification settings for Teams. You can decide whether or not you want everything to come in through your activity, or if you want it to come in through your email. And then your call settings are just some things about voicemail and how long you want it to ring for. Now those notification settings, up here is your activity. So you can see these are where your notifications will come through if you have it enabled in your notifications. So this is the first place I start whenever I open up Teams, and I can just go through here and look at my notifications. And then really quick, the last thing I want to go over is this help menu down here. I highly recommend you use this as often as you can, because there are some training videos and articles in here that you can use to get to know Teams a little bit more. But maybe even more important than that, suggest a feature and give feedback. If there's anything about Teams that you don't like or you wish that it did, you can suggest that as a feature or give feedback. And I promise our engineers are checking those every day, all day. And many of the new features that we have in Teams are because somebody added it as suggest a feature. So that's going to be about everything. I'm going to hang around and answer any more questions that you guys have, but I do just want to thank you for coming out to our Teams training session. What do we have any other questions that need to be answered?
Yeah, Shane, actually a couple more questions on just sharing desktop, sharing PowerPoints, documents during meetings. If we can go over that one more time. I think there's a little bit of confusion on what to share on my desktop. Can I share a Word file? What's the difference between that and sharing a PowerPoint file?
Sure. Let me see. So again, I just want to reiterate that these settings are different between the web version and the desktop version. So I would highly recommend you go into your calendar and click on Meet Now, because that will create a new meeting with just you in it, and you can test some of these features yourself. But when you are in the web app, the only thing that you can share are files that have already been uploaded. So if I click on this PowerPoint right here, it is just going to open the PowerPoint and it is going to show it as a screen right here. And anybody else who is in the meeting with me will be able to see that PowerPoint as well. But that is because I am in the web app. If I were in the desktop app, when I click on, come back. When I click on the share button, in addition to just these PowerPoint files, it will give me a list of all of the windows I have open that I can share individually, or I can share my entire screen.
And I'm looking for a little bit more clarity on this last question. How do you share a Word OneNote document in your meeting? And I'm not sure if that is a Word document that you want to share, a OneNote file that you share, or if you're sharing meeting notes. And I'm looking to see if this individual will provide just a little bit more detail. A Word document saved via OneNote.
So if I have Teams open in the desktop application, again, this is the web app, so the settings are going to be a little bit different. If I have that Word file open and I click share and I have Teams open in the desktop application, that Word file would be listed right here. And I would be able to click on it and it would share to everybody. Just because this is the web app, I only have the ability to share the PowerPoint files that have been uploaded to this meeting already.
Okay. And I'll just add to that, just because I see a Word document saved via OneNote. What I would do if it were me in this case, I would open up that Word document from OneNote and have that ready to go to share. Shane, I don't know if you have any details if I've got a Word document saved in OneNote during a meeting. It's not something I've regularly done, though.
No, I mean, I know if you use OneNote, you can share files. You can save files within that OneNote to give everybody access to. However, and I used to do that too, but if that's something that you're doing a lot, maybe consider sharing or saving that Word document within Teams instead of within the OneNote, because you'll be able to do all the same things that way, but it won't be, you won't have to go too many layers deep, if that makes sense.
Okay. Can you show how to change or blur your background real quick? That's actually one of my favorites.
Sure. Give me 1 second. Sorry, the camera I use is not the main screen that I'm using, so it's off to the side. But if you turn your camera on, let's see if it works. There we go. Hello, everybody. So if you have your camera on, and then go to more, no? Oh, it's because I have the share menu up. Is that something that might not be available in the web app either?
But you are on the right track. If you were to click that more option with your camera on, it would give you an option for background options, which you could blur. You could add a number of templated backgrounds. You can either, I believe, upload your own background, which I've noticed people have done. Some are, kind of fun. Some have the organizational seal as they're using. So you do have that capability in the government computing cloud. And I know we're running over time here, but I think it was the same person asked if OneNote is still valid with Teams. Yeah, absolutely. OneNote is valid in Teams. The way I use it is in a Teams channel. I have a number of OneNote files in various channels that I have pinned as a tab, and these are just notes that people are continuously adding either from meetings, from other project related tasks, but I absolutely, OneNote is very valid with Teams. And I think just as a follow-up, we had that one question we couldn't answer, which I'm going to do a little more research, but Shane, at this time, we have no further questions.
All right, well, I do want to thank everybody for coming out to this training. I definitely love Microsoft Teams, and I love talking about it. So thank you for coming out. And whoever asked that one question that is very interesting, I can't wait to find out the answer to that one. So we're definitely going to do some research and figure out what's going on with that. But again, thank you to everybody who came out, and thank you to Brandon and Timothy for fielding those questions. I appreciate you guys being here. Looks like we had a very talkative group, which I really love. And yeah. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Yes, thank you for having us.